Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about joining a company with smart people. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, should I be happy when I joined, if I got to join a company where all the other engineers seems to be way smarter than me? Well, that sort of depends. What type of people are they, and what type of person are you, and what type of person is your manager. That's sort of the long way of saying it depends, and let me walk you through why. So there is this idea which is lovingly, and it really ties back, as I always like to say, to one of my favorites. Well, it's not politically correct to say so, but I don't really care because it is the truth. And that is when someone says that, for example, oh, I only hire people that are smarter than me so that they can tell me what to do, etc., etc. These sorts of this quirky little idea that if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room, etc., etc. Well, if you're the smartest motherfucker who's ever walked the earth, there's not many more rooms to go to now, is there? If you're incompetent and you hire people, well, then anybody's going to be smarter than you, but that doesn't mean that they can do the job. It's just that you are incompetent. And by joining a team where everybody's smarter than yourself, that really is going to be a horror show for you if they expect you to perform at their level. Now, isn't it? So the thing that I always say is that stupid people will make stupid people are always going to be a problem for anything you do, because you can make any claim, you can state anything related to, like, is it better to do A or B, or is it smart to do this or that, and so forth. And any of these cute ideology statements where, as I said, like you can make up anything. And if you have a stupid person, everything falls to shit because the end goal is not achieved. Because they are too dumb to actually handle the situation, and therefore, you take it to the extreme, and all of a sudden the spirit of the thing that you're talking about falls between the chairs. So let me make this a little bit more concrete. So yes, if you are, let's say, a perfect example of this, where this is a very good thing for you. Well, if you are, say, junior software developer, and you join in a company where your manager is a more experienced, mature type of person, understands that, well, we're going to make an investment into you because we like you and you seem to be a good junior software developer, but we also understand that you need some training. And then they put you in a team with fairly sociable people with more experienced profiles, and they sort of understand that, yeah, this is a new person, or like it's a person who's still got some learning to do. No worries, we're gonna, because they've already sort of created this atmosphere where, yeah, they'll be okay with that you don't produce as fast as anybody else, or so forth and so forth, and they will try to mentor you and like answer your questions and so forth and so forth. Then this is a very good environment for you. Absolutely, every single day of the week, this is only a good thing for anybody who is going to join. But then on the other hand, if you are too dumb, or too, you're not dumb, you don't even have to be dumb, you just have to be less experienced. If you put, this is also a very common one, you put an inexperienced or unskilled software developer into a group of really high performant software developers. Well, I know that we are supposed to be inclusive and so forth, but the reality is that I've never seen any group of high achievers feeling as it's fun to deal with someone who slows everybody down. And the person who's doing it is usually not the sort of person who likes that either. Because that's why we have divisions in sport, why we compete at different levels. Because if everybody competed together, nobody would be happy, because we're at different levels. And the same thing applies here. So if you can't perform, that's probably going to put a bunch of anxiety. And trust me when I say this, it's more often that I hear questions related to that problem than it is that people just go, yeah, I got a nice job in a really nice, awesome team where everybody, I feel completely fine, etc., etc. These are the people who are usually very fortunate. but it's not the norm. In many cases, it's difficult for many people to get into that environment. So if you're in that environment, well, then it becomes very quickly a hostile environment for you. Probably very destructive to your sense of self-worth, etc., etc. It could destroy your entire identity and future career, because now you are in a group of people who don't really like the fact that you're so bad, or like that you're not as smart, etc., etc. Or maybe they don't give a shit about you. Maybe they are, this is another one that can happen. They're really, really smart, and you need help, but they don't care, because they're really, really smart, and they think it's obvious, and therefore you're not gonna gain any benefit from the fact that they are smarter. You're just gonna further feel isolated because you can't perform at their level. And here comes the next thing. All right, so your manager. Well, if that manager is a very, it depends really. If it's a stupid manager, they're going to look at the output of, say, the more experienced software developers, or the really, really good ones, and then they're going to look at your output and see that you're really, really bad. Maybe you're not actually so bad. Maybe it's just that they are performing at a level which is almost unprecedented, or they have extreme domain knowledge or something. So by comparison, it looks like they are really, really performant. But if you put anyone into that team that are not these people, which is a classic one when you have someone who's been there for like years and years and years and know everything by heart in a very complicated domain knowledge system, right? Then they can always perform really, really quickly, and nobody else can. But by comparison, the manager sees that everybody else is unperformant, and the stupid manager will go, "Oh, we'll have to fire you, right? Because we can't have that you don't learn, that you don't get as good as the other person, because we need someone who outputs as much as this person, right? Or the expectation is that." And so now you get fired for being with quote-unquote smarter people, or if it's, I don't even want to call it smarter people, but I hope you see my point. Or you might have a manager who goes and says that, well, actually, the people that are working here, they are, really like they're this tight-knit little group, and we can't really get you to perform well with them. You can't work autonomously. They might even not see that you're a junior software developer or something like that, and then they start adding pressure on you because you can't perform. They're unhappy with your performance, as I was saying. So what can you do? Well, there's not much you can do, and that's why I tell people that it really comes down to, as I've always say, guys, you can always make the claim that one thing is better than the other, but as soon as you introduce a bit of context, reality, cases, a few other viewpoints on how a scenario can play out, you start to see the world for what it actually is. So I just take it from me, stop this foolish slogan mindset, because the only people who benefit from this sort of thinking are the people who are writing novels, newspapers, politicians. All the marketing people, every single one of them, every brand out there are using the same thing. They try to create a slogan, a marketable concept, and then they try to repeat those words so that they can make a point, something like that. But reality is always more complicated, and truly intelligent people don't just blindly follow a doctrine promoted by someone. They think it through. They start thinking about the corner cases, the sort of stuff that you should be doing if you're a software developer, and you start to realize that, well, it always depends. And here are the situations where the thing that someone is saying might be completely true, such as what we started talking about. And here are the situations where it's not true any longer. So what I want you to take away from this is that no, you should not be happy just because you're joining people who are smarter than you, as I said, because it's always about fit. That's always what it comes down to, depending on how you define what smarter is. It might be the best thing that ever happened to you, and it might be the worst horror show that you can possibly imagine. And I have talked to people, I've been people who have been in both situations. I have worked with people that were really, really smart and practically made me into the software developer I am today. And I've worked with people that are really, really smart who, let's just say that we did not get along all that well. It really comes down to something more complicated than, you're working with more experienced software developers, because trust me guys, just because you're working with smarter people, that doesn't mean that you gain any benefit from that. It might be the worst thing possible for you. It's, as I said, it's sort of like doing sports at different levels. If you're a beginner, it's probably a little bit exciting at first to play with the all-star major leagues super players, but that gets old really, really quickly when you start seeing how far the distance are between your performances, and when you start getting, especially when you get evaluated at their level. Nobody's really happy about that sort of situation, at least in my experience. Have a great day.